Happiness, a state of joy and contentment, a feeling we all long to capture. But what exactly is true happiness, and how do we reach it? We ask that simple question and turn to you, our viewers, for insight into what makes us happy today. You opened up. How happy are you? Responding to multiple choice questions such as, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? And how would you describe your approach to life? And now the results are in. And so we've returned to world-renowned happiness researchers Shawn Achor and Gielan. Guys, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And you happen to both be happiness researchers, and you're married.
That's right.
So there's so much to be happy about. Your TED Talk has actually gotten more than 20 million views. So you guys are experts on the subject. How are we doing overall when it comes to happiness in this country?
I think in 2018, it's so easy to feel like happiness isn't as possible as it used to be, or it's harder.
Yeah.
Depression rates have doubled. Anxiety is the highest it's been in our schools. I spent 12 years at Harvard, and 2 of them, I was so depressed, I didn't want to go on living. But in a field of positive psychology, we started changing this. We've been researching what we could do to pull ourselves out of depression. And not only did it work for me and many of these habits, but now we're doing these in schools. Yesterday, I was in Flint, Michigan, working with 21 school districts, trying to create happiness patterns there that could pull us out of depression and anxiety, but also in the midst of very challenging lives.
Before we break down these quiz results, what's the best way to view happiness? How should we be looking at happiness in our society?
That's an excellent question. I think it's important to redefine happiness, that it's not just pleasure. Happiness is the joy that we feel growing towards our potential. And what's great about that is that you can feel that joy in the midst of life's ups and downs. Like, you know, childbirth, it's not necessarily a pleasurable experience, and yet it's extremely joyful because it's so meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I know you guys emphasize. Is you can be happy, but happiness can coexist with other emotions.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what so many people misunderstand, is that they think that the opposite of happiness is unhappiness.
Yeah.
But unhappiness fuels great change. It tells us when there's injustice in the world. Unhappiness tells us when we're lonely and we need to reach out to other people. The opposite of happiness is apathy. And apathy is the loss of belief that your behavior matters at all, or that change is possible. So what we're trying to help people to do is to see happiness as something that fuels positive change.
All right, so we both took this quiz.
Yes.
Lots of other folks are taking it as well. Let's take a look at some of the findings, because I was actually somewhat surprised by the findings. So here we are. First up.
Well, 34% of people scored moderate to low happy. I mean, first of all, does that surprise you? Moderate to low, most people. And what's your advice to those folks in that category?
What we suggest in that category is to make a small 1-second behavioral change. Oftentimes when we're feeling down.
1 second.
1 second. And, you know, when we're feeling down, we forget our power to make those changes and how it can impact our happiness. So we call it directing your focus. And it's finding 3 people, strangers perhaps, and just consciously smiling at them to create that connection and widen your circle. We actually did this at a hospital system and trained the staff to smile at people as they're walking through the hallways. What was amazing is that patients' perceived care skyrocketed, and doctors reported the happiest they'd been in a decade.
That's so interesting to just kind of force yourself, but then it jump starts those happy feelings.
It does.
18% received a moderate to high score. What's the lesson here for those folks?
So one of the things we were learning about is that as your energy rises, maybe you could do more things. And one of the things we wanted people to do was to be more grateful, to practice it. 99% of people think that they're grateful, but they don't really practice it within their lives. But what we found in positive psychology is that for 45 seconds a day, you thought of 3 new things you're grateful for, and you did this for 21 days in a row. People were testing as low-level pessimists. 21 days later, we're testing as low-level optimists, and that's one of the ones you thought you couldn't change. So we're married happiness researchers, so we try to do this as a family as well with our 4-year-old. So we have a glass jar that we keep in our kitchen, and as we write down positive things that are going on in our lives or things that we're grateful for, we put them on a piece of paper, roll them up, and put them in this jar, and then you watch the jar start to rise. So even if you're not reading them, you're like, happiness is growing, but then you read them at the end of the year.
We have 4-year-olds. We're like, this is a good idea.
That's a great idea.
And you go back and you're like, there's so much to be grateful for that we forgot about because we sometimes get focused so much on the negative.
That's a really good idea.
It is. Okay, and the final category, 32%, and I would say,
this is
you
us.
and I, it's us. We're happy because we got an A in the happiness quiz. No, I was kidding. It says, we're both generally happy. 32% said they were, they felt happy. So if you're like, okay, I'm pretty happy, what do? There's always room for improvement, isn't there?
Nope, we're as happy as we can be.
Yeah, that's it.
You did it.
We maxed out.
Yeah, in this case, you want to supermodel the happiness, right? You want to give it to other people. And so we recommend doing a random act of kindness, something small to someone else. What's great about this also is that it takes the focus off of our own happiness and allows us to then fuel other people's happiness, and then it creates a feedback loop.
Yeah.
And
You've got happiness, you can share it.
That's right, and it creates social connection. Because as soon as you do something nice for somebody else, it creates a bond. And when that happens, it turns out social connection, greatest predictor of your long-term levels of happiness, and social connection is as predictive of how long you'll end up living as obesity, high blood pressure, or smoking. So creating the positive, it can be just as powerful as stopping the negative.
This is great.
Yeah. What I take away is you got to work at it.
That's right, daily.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Shawn
much,
and
Michelle. Back to your happy lives. By the way, our journey toward happier lives is just getting started. If you want more tips from our experts on how to have a more positive mindset, you can take our happiness quiz too. Just go to today.com/wellness.
We should go and spread our happiness around the studio.
Yes.